real stories of rising through hardships, raw truths around life and parenting. What does the universe have in store for us? Self care to your core. We shine best in our authenticity. Welcome to Rise and Shine with the Mama Jac. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Shine with the Mama Jac. Today, we have one of my precious friends, Olive, with us. She's going to tell us about before getting pregnant, her maternity experience, and her birth experience, and prenatal. We get the whole story with her, and man, is it a ride. So I want to say hi, Olive. How are you?
Hey, Mama Jac. Good, good. Thank you so much for having me. I cannot believe that I'm about to tell my crazy birth story here for a lot of moms. I hope it helps someone at least. And I know that it's going to be a really healing experience for me to be able to say it out loud because it took me a while.
Yeah, I get it, girl. I get it. I totally do. And I know your journey is just something, I don't want to say incredible. We'll let everybody hear it. But
It is incredible.
yeah, it's incredible, and where you're at today is incredible afterwards. So, give yourself
So
props for that. But so let's talk about it. So, you get pregnant and what's going on?
Okay, so I kind of manifested this pregnancy because I had came back from, abroad and I came back to my hometown and I was like, I'm going to set roots. I'm going to get pregnant. I'm going to have my dream house. I'm going to do everything. And literally in 3 months it happened. Like I met a random dude, I moved into my new house, and 6 weeks later I was pregnant and I couldn't believe it because I had been trying to get off these medications for 5 years. That's another whole book that I'm going to write. And I had gotten to the lowest dosage. So I was having withdrawals. So I didn't realize there were pregnancy symptoms. I was like dizzy. I was like nearly passing out and all of that. And I just couldn't believe it. I had also had two miscarriages prior to this. So in my head, I was like, I can't carry a baby. I'm on these meds. That's why I was trying to get off of them for 5 years of literally titrating down. And so the pregnancy, I feel could have been better if I wasn't so much in my head because of the miscarriages and because of withdrawing. And the doctors, I was very scared. I kept telling the doctor, I am a high risk geriatric pregnancy. Like, please give me whatever you do for super high risk, even though two miscarriages very early on isn't even considered high risk now that I know. And I was 36, so it was barely geriatric, not even. But he gave me progesterone and aspirin. Apparently, there's aspirin babies. And I forget that I was on aspirin my entire pregnancy. And it's like this thing that people know that I had no idea that it's like to prevent miscarriages. And I guess placenta stuff, there's a lot of science and it's been done for years. And so I was on that, and the doctor took me off progesterone after my first trimester. Everything was going smooth, but in my head it wasn't, which is totally two different realities to be in. I got one of those little monitors, and like I was limiting myself to just 1 week, dude. Like, do not do it every single day. She's gonna be pissed off with the little ultra waves and everything. And so my second trimester was hell again because I didn't realize I was having withdrawals from progesterone. And so the dark thoughts of whatever, this is just going to end in a miscarriage. I was already pretty far and I was still not believing. I couldn't come up with a name. I hated everyone. I isolated myself so bad, and I had been on self proclaimed bed rest, even though the doctor didn't put me on bed rest. That's where my mind was. I am going to do, which looking back, I also think that affected me. I should have been normal, like working and doing whatever, but I was also not on medication. So,
Yeah.
in a way, I don't think I could have worked, but I wasn't even getting out of bed. Like I was in, I hated everybody. I hated the world. It was quarantine COVID time. So people were doing this just because. So it was normal,
Mhm.
but in a way, it wasn't normal for me. And so, I guess third trimester went pretty well. Everything was good. I started feeling better from the withdrawals towards the end of my pregnancy. And I think what really helped me through this was I joined a birth boot camp class, and I went with a birth educator that changed my life. Like, she was my angel throughout this whole journey. So I got to maybe the last 12 weeks. It was a 12-week course. She's a doula, she has her own company, everything's amazing, right? And so I got to sort of get out of bed at least once a week for 3 hours or whatever. It was pretty long, I think. Once a week. And I had to get out of bed. They taught you nutrition. They literally, the nitty gritty of everything, from how, I don't even remember everything. I wish I would have had my little boot camp. You get a big binder, like a big thing, and it's like all the medical, all the doula, midwife. I was so prepared. When I tell you, I knew exactly what to experience. We watched videos, we did like little meditations, we did yoga, we did breathing exercises, and I even made my partner come with me, which is kind of funny. He didn't want to because he already had two kids before. He was like, I already know what to do. And I'm just like, you need to know how to support me, dude. Not that experience, my
Yeah.
experience. And he was cool. He came to the things. He knew how to massage me because I was like, no, I don't like that. No. Like, they even tell you, you got to be honest with your partner.
Yeah.
What they think you like isn't. It was so cute. Looking back, it was cute. I had my little hospital bag, the whole curated, like, I curated my hospital bag, all cute with, essential oils, crystals. I was listening to the binaural beats that were like pain reduction, the mantras, the affirmations of mom going through labor. And I was on a bouncy exercise ball trying to get myself aligned. I went to the chiropractor to get my hips aligned for the position. I even wrote a birth plan, which is like, I'm that girl that wrote the birth plan.
Mhm.
Like, it's funny because I went 2 days before my due date. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go walking the grocery store, HEB, like all the aisles and stuff. And when I came home, I was like, I feel contractions. Oh my gosh. And I started timing them, but they were really slow, super sporadic, like every 10, 15 minutes. It was just starting. And so right away I was like, I better write my birth plan. And I'm there in contractions, like writing my birth plan right before going to the hospital. And then that night I couldn't sleep, like, at all. The contractions were getting closer, like 9 minutes or whatever. And I think the next day I bled. I went to the restroom and I noticed blood, and I was like, I don't think this is normal. I asked my mom, my sister, all my friends, and they're like, no, I didn't bleed. And I was like, okay, let's go to the doctor. Let's go. Took my little hospital bag and I went, and they were like, no, you're not even dilated. Maybe like the tiniest amount or whatever.
I
If
hated that shit, dude. I remember them telling me that, and that's why I swear to God, I almost had Harlow on the freeway because I was like, I'm not going back until she's giving you a fucking high five coming out because I will not hear you're only 2 centimeters or 4 centimeters dilated one more time.
Yeah, dude. I was actually like, they asked me if I wanted to stay, but because of all my little education or whatever, I was like, dude, it can be another day until I'm even like 2 or 3. So I'm like, I'd rather go home and be able to eat
Yeah.
everything I want to eat. I'd rather be able to move in my little exercise ball and do all my crazy stuff, take showers, take baths to be able to calm myself down because that would calm me. Water really helps people during labor and me. So I went back home, but I was like, getting a little paranoid about the blood because they said it was kind of normal, but
I had
nobody had told me.
I had
You
it with
had it too?
Harlow. Yeah, it's my mucus plug came out. So if your mucus plug comes out and it can also regenerate. So there is blood. It was like a gush, but it wasn't like my water breaking, but it was a definite like that wasn't pee when I was sitting on the toilet. So just
Right.
know that you do know somebody that that happened to because it happened to
Yay.
me. Yes.
Right. I was like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Another day of just talking to friends and just being like walking around like, fuck, these contractions, like they're getting stronger and stronger. And I couldn't sleep again. So this is my second night of no sleep because I didn't really sleep, even though the contractions were probably not even that bad, but I was over here like, and so then I think around 4 in the morning, I was like, I'm gonna take a shower. And then I looked at the contractions and they were every 3 minutes or 4 minutes. And they had told me that's when you're in labor, like you're in active labor, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to be safe. But the hospital's right there. So I didn't even think like, oh, it's not that far. So I woke up my partner and I was like, I can't take it anymore. I could barely. And he's like, well, you're not gonna eat. And he decides to make me steak and eggs while I'm there, like, like what? That was my biggest concern because I am a little raccoon and I am very concerned about not being able to eat. And they were just going to give me ice chips. And so I brought everything. I went to the hospital. It was COVID times. So I could only have him go with me. I was very sad about that. My mom couldn't go, my sister couldn't go. And for like my sister's birth, I was there, my mom was there, her husband was there. I feel like everybody was there. And so it was kind of weird. It was sad. I really wanted my mom and my sister more than him, actually. And
Yeah.
so we went and we had to wear masks. And I was like, dude, why? I don't even get it. So I wasn't even wearing my mask. I never listened.
Mhm.
And I came out, I forget the word, GBS positive. So it's like a strep
Yeah.
bacteria or something. So they had to give me a round of penicillin or antibiotics. So I had to be hooked up. And I
Mhm.
was like, and I had already discussed this with my doctor that I was like, can I be able to move? Can I be able to give birth in different positions or whatever? He's like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to have this horrible hospital experience like everyone has told me. I'm going to teach these people. I felt like I was just there to show them. I was, yeah. So then I get there and I ask the nurses, yeah, he told me there's wireless monitors. Can I put one of the wireless monitors? And they're like, no, our Wi Fi doesn't even work. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, those don't even work. I don't even know where they're at. Like it was not even something that anyone ever asked in my hometown. Like, what? And then I was like, first disappointment, right? And then they put me in the bed and it's completely flat and hard. And
Mhm.
I'm super stuck. And I start feeling the pain even stronger. I was like, oh my God, like I can't lay like this. I have to move. And they were like, you are 6 centimeters. I made it from 0 to 6 at
Yeah.
home. I freaking labored at home. So I felt really proud, right? And so then I'm like, okay, 6 centimeters. They're like, yeah, once you're at 6, you can't move. You can't, you're like a liability or something that it could just come out and I don't know. And so I was like, second disappointment. I was like, okay, I'll lay here. And this is very uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. And then I think they gave my partner food and he was eating hamburger and fries all happy in
Oh my
front of me. And I'm just,
god. Ah.
yeah, it's crazy. They looked really good. And then they gave me a COVID test and I was like, okay, cool. And then I just blanked out about being like, are you going to give him a COVID test? I wish I would have said that like, hey, give him a COVID test too. But they didn't. They didn't even ask. They didn't tell me anything. And he was walking around without a mask everywhere, just like me. All the
Mhm.
nurses were the same people over and over. So I didn't think anything of it, right? I was like, ooh, cool. Like, so then I go, I'm probably there 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and I was tired. I was really tired. By 9, they checked me again, or I don't know if they were checking me every hour or so, but they were like, you're barely about to be a 7. You're barely a 7. You're barely a 7. Hours, 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 hours. And I was like, I thought I was in active labor. Why aren't you letting me move? And so I kept getting kind of bitter. And I was like, oh, I think there was something else. I forgot. I said, oh my God, can you go to the car to go get my exercise ball? And this, they're like, no, I forgot about that. They wouldn't even let me bring something I forgot. They were like, no, no one can come in and out. And I was like, what?
The hospital
Okay.
didn't have their own?
No, they were just like, no. And then once they saw I was a 6, they were like completely bedridden. Imagine me like 5 hours flat bedridden.
Yeah.
And then I was just not progressing and I was starting to get nervous. Well, people say that they progress so fast. They
Mhm.
went from a 3 to 3 hours later, you know? And so I was starting to get nervous. And then different people kept coming in, right? And I had put in my birth plan, please don't ask me if I want an epidural. Please don't ask me if I want you to break my water. Please don't ask me if I want Pitocin. Please don't ask me. I will ask you.
Mhm.
Like, literally, they were like, "Okay, you're a 7. Do you want the epidural?" I was like, "No, no." But, like, I knew that, "Why
Yeah.
are you asking me right now? I'm so vulnerable right now." Like, I knew that in a vulnerable moment, because I wanted a natural birth. I
Yeah.
wanted it non-medicated and all that, right? And so then, I think the doctor, one of them came and they're like, "We need to break your water." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Why can't we just let it? It's too long. Like, you cannot be." Most people, I don't know if it was a lie. I think it was a lie, total lie. But when you're in a vulnerable state and your partner isn't advocating for you or doesn't know what to say for you, it's like you just kind of are so, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. And so
Mhm.
then they broke my water. And then 2 hours later, I think I was in 8 maybe, or a 7.5. It literally wasn't progressing. And it was like afternoon already, like 5 or something. And I was like 6. I don't even know how long. And then they were like, "Do you want the epidural?" The doctor said that we need to give you Pitocin because actually they weren't saying this. I'm just saying this. They were saying, "We need to help you, whatever." But I
Mhm.
knew what it meant
Yeah.
whenever they said, "We need to help you with like the
Moving it
contractions or
along, yes.
moving it along,
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh fuck, no, you're not gonna give me Pitocin." That was one of my miscarriages. I had to take something that was gonna make my uterus contract really from 0 to 100. The trauma of the past miscarriage, of how painful that was.
Mhm.
The labor pains I was feeling at an 8 were nothing compared to that miscarriage with Pitocin,
And yeah.
another novel. And so then I was so scared of that. So that's when I said, "Fine, give me the epidural." Only because of the trauma from I was managing the pain really well in a way. And so then they give me the epidural and they gave me the Pitocin. I fell asleep. I literally once
Yeah, because
the
they give you fentanyl in your epidural at first, so it knocks you out. Yeah.
so I just feel my legs, they're just like almost like a blow up thing where you're just like, whoa, they feel so huge and I don't even think I can move them. And then I hadn't slept in 2 days. So like
So
I'm
that
full blown.
fentanyl, when it kicked in for for me, for Harlow, I was like, "Woo!" But for you, you hadn't slept, so you were just like, Yeah, dude, yeah.
Seriously. And so then it was this epidural lady, let's call her Ducky. Ducky comes and she's like, asking me all these questions like, "Oh, have you done this? Have you done that?" And I think I told her, "What medications are you on?" And I was like, "Well, I have a history of depression and anxiety and have ADHD." And then she's like, "What drugs are you on?" "Well, I'm on, Effexor, but I'm on the lowest dosage. I'm on lamotrigine. I'm on a really low dose. I stopped taking my Adderall completely during the pregnancy. That's it." And then she was just like, "Okay." And so I was like, "Is this gonna give me withdrawals?" Dude, I'm so paranoid because have a very nervous, my nervous system is just so fragile or so dysregulated that I get like symptoms from a lot of stuff. Even lavender essential oil will give me bad symptoms. Benadryl, anything. So I
Mhm.
was all scared of the epidural too, but it didn't. So then I fell asleep. And then when they come back, I think they moved me with the peanut, like the peanut ball. And then
Mhm.
they're like, "Put this to help it along." And so they turned me and then they turned me again. And then finally, I kind of woke up and they were like, "Okay, you're ready to push. You're already at almost a 10. You just have the lip of the cervix. Like, you're good." And I'm like, "What? Huh?" I didn't even know what was like, it didn't even register that I was in labor. It's weird, right? I was with the epidural, like, and so I'm pushing, and this nurse helps me push. The doctor doesn't even come in. And the nurse is like, "You're not pushing right." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I remember in birth boot camp, I kept asking them, 'How do you push?' Because I couldn't fathom this." And they kept saying, like, "You're taking a shit." And I'm like, "Well, I don't push to take a shit." And
Mhm.
they were like, "Who doesn't push?" And I'm like, "I just want to come. I just breathe it out or whatever. I'm gonna breathe out my baby, whatever." And so, and they were making me push. And I was over here like pushing, not even comfortable. I took a shit. I took like 3 shits
Mhm.
because I did eat fries and I shouldn't have. But like I could have
Sorry.
died. And so then I'm over here pushing and I'm apparently not pushing correctly. And I'm sweating. I had all my little wet towel, the cool towels that I had brought just for this moment that, he could wipe my sweat down or whatever. And then the lady was like, "We're going to have to turn your epidural down. Like, she's not feeling it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not. How am I gonna push when I'm not feeling anything? I'm
Yeah.
freaking in fentanyl life, like
Yes.
chilling, but I'm dilated to a 10. How does that even work, right?" And so then Ducky comes back in after I pushed for 2 hours. Can you picture how tired I was? I pushed for 2 hours.
Yeah. I pushed for an hour and a half with Kennedy. I can't imagine. I think my sister-in-law pushed for around 2 hours before she had a C-section, and it's like, how the hell? That is so, because I
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
passed out with Kennedy. Literally, they had to put oxygen on my face because I was pushing so hard that I lost my breath and everything went black.
That would have happened to me because I wasn't pushing right. I was doing like, she goes, "You're pushing with your face." And I'm like, "What does that even mean? I'm pushing with my face." And then she lowered the epidural. And I think she asked me, "Do you feel anything?" And I was like, "No." And then she lowered it. And then she's like, "Man, you're practically like no epidural." And I'm like, "I feel it now." So
Mhm.
like they turned it down to the lowest. And now that I could feel it, I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God." Like I was like pushing and I was like, I feel it now and it feels good to push. It
Yeah.
was like a weird, it feels like you have to
Yeah.
push.
It's an automatic response. It is. Yeah. It's
It
crazy.
feels like
It's
it's like,
crazy.
"Oh my God, it helps me. It feels better when
Yeah.
I'm pushing." And so then the lady was like, "Okay, you're doing okay. You're doing good. Let me bring the doctor in." And I was like, it was almost 2.5, 3 hours. 2.5, 3 hours of pushing. And they bring the doctor in, and the doctor comes in and he looks and he's like, "No, you're not having this baby. I'm sorry. She's not, your hips and her position is not right." And I was like, "Well, if you let me sit up, if you let me stand up." And they're like, "No, we can't." And I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable on my back. That's why I'm not having this baby. And I'm so uncomfortable that I don't feel anything with the epidural. They
Mhm.
had to take it off. And right away, he's like, "You're going to have to do a C-section." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Whatever." Like, I wasn't super happy about it, but I wasn't mad. I was tired. I was
Yeah.
exhausted,
Yeah.
dude. 3 hours. You can do anything to me at this point. Just fuck, whatever.
Just
I'm
get
just
her
going to
out.
chill.
Just get her
Just
out.
get her out. I'm done. And it's funny because other people, I don't know if the beginning of it, I don't even think other people, I think other people would have been like, "No, I'm not having a C-section," because they were so, gun ho or whatever. And I hear they're preparing me and Ducky comes in and she checks the epidural thing and she puts it back up or whatever. It's like a machine. And she's looking at the screen and I hear her talking to the nurses and she's like, "Do you see the heart rate?" And blah, 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 blah. And she's far, but my ears were heightened for some reason. And I was like, "Is there something wrong?" And then they're like, "No, no, everything's okay." And I'm just like, "Is her heart rate dropping? Is there a reason why?" And in my head, I was like, "Just get her out of her. Just get her
Yeah.
out of me now." Like, and how exhausted is she from pushing for 3 hours? And me, oh my God, did I like fuck her face up from just pushing, pushing?
There's
All
smushy
these thoughts.
faces. Yeah. But
Well,
still. Did she have a cone head when she came out from pushing?
she didn't. She
Okay,
didn't,
good. Yeah,
surprisingly.
some
And I
babies
was just
come out
like,
with a cone.
that's what I thought. I was like, "Man, she's gonna be all squished from the 3 hours. No, get her out, you know?" And so then they shave your vagina and you're in the bed and they take you to the operating room and then they tell my partner, "Sorry, you can't go in." And I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, he doesn't have a COVID test." What? You
Why
didn't
wouldn't
even
they
tell
do
me?
that at the beginning then? Like,
They did it on me. They gave me a COVID test, but they didn't give him. He's the only person here for me. Like what? They I was He was like, what? But I've been here the whole time. We've all been the same team. Like, there's no,
Yeah.
and it was just, they were just like, no, no, it's like a sterile environment, or I don't even know. So then I was like, oh my God, I'm going for my first surgery ever. I haven't ever had a surgery. And then I'm like going in the hallway and the people are behind me and I hear Ducky again. And she's like telling the nurse, it's going to be a nuchal, whatever. And I was like, nuchal? And then she said umbilical cord. And she's whispering so soft, dude. But my hearing, I
Yeah.
swear, it must have been supersonic and shit. And I was like, nuchal, nuka, neck, umbilical cord. Oh shit. The umbilical cord is around her neck, not letting her get out. So
Yeah.
it's like bungee jump, doing
Yeah.
something. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're trying not to freak me out, but something's happening,
Mhm.
you know? And they didn't tell me it was an emergency C-section. I was just kind of like, what? These are just random thoughts, but it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. So then when I was at the operating table, or I had a table, and then they were like, can you scooch to the operating table a little bit? The nurses were so skinny, like fragile skinny, that were trying to push me to the operating table. I didn't realize that I lifted my legs and my butt and just like, I completely, nobody helped me get from the other bed to the to the operating table. I didn't click. And so then I'm there and I'm like, they put the thing and I was just like, oh my God, this is happening. And I feel like I was pretty calm, but of course I have contractions. And
Mhm.
I didn't think about that either. I'm having contractions and I'm just like, just get her out, just get her out. I could just feel that thought. And then what happened? I don't remember much, but it was like they I see the doctor and everything, and I'm laying there and I'm just like, I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And then when he starts cutting, I am like, oh my God, oh my, please help me. I can feel it. I can feel it. And then I'm kind of like, I can't see people because of everything. I could just hear people in the back, and in the cover, I can't see anybody. Nobody, I can't see faces. I just hear voices. And
Mhm.
I'm just legit, my whole body, legs, and arms start convulsing. And I could feel the cutting and the burning and the skin. And I could, trigger warning, complete trigger warning. And I could feel the next layer. And I could look and I'm like, help me. But I'm like frozen. I could feel somebody putting pressure on my legs so that I wouldn't move. And I could hear somebody saying something to the doctor. And Ducky goes, please, you need to stop. And I'm like, and then she's like, you sometimes, I don't remember how, dude, I'm trying to remember it. She's like, I don't think that that you need to stop. Or she said something like, if you don't stop right now, I'm going to have to give you ketamine. And I don't want that. And so in my head, I was like, okay.
Oh my
And
god, you poor thing!
I
Oh
felt
my
three
god.
layers. I felt 3 layers and I passed out. I must have passed out from pain, or just, because I was convulsing, dude. And it wasn't the shakes of when
The
people
pregnancy
say like
shakes, yeah, like the
after birth or whatever, the afterbirth, or I don't know what shakes. It was very, very, I hadn't felt that before, convulsing.
yeah.
And so then when I go into this world where I can't even go there anymore that much. I've said the story a lot, so I'm kind of numb to it now since I've said it so many times. I just remember being in the Matrix. I was in the Matrix and I could see how everything was code and numbers and symbols. And then I was like in the multiverse. There were no boundaries of time, of place. I could see multiple things happening at once. And I could see the things that really kind of come up to me is like, I could see plants and I could hear them. And I was like hearing, this was the first movement. If you do these movements, and then I was thinking of like, I wasn't thinking at that time, obviously. I'm trying to recall it. And then I like saw my family, like my mom, my sister, my family. And I had this like piece of like, I'm saying goodbye to y'all. Like, oh my gosh, this life is so fast. And it was a detachment that I never have felt in my entire life. This very like quick, I'm done. I'm done with this assignment. I'm done here. Y'all were awesome. Like if they were nobodies, like the way that I picture it, it wasn't like that though. It was peaceful and it was like weird, like where I was dying. I was dying. And then I was learning the whole meaning of life with the sounds, with the movements, the first sound. I can't even do it because it was like I remember hearing the sounds and like I can remember like being in multiple places at once. And it was literally, I was like, I am code. Like it's just like a trip, dude. I can't even tell you. And I wish I would have written it down, but I didn't. And so then I start coming to, and I'm in the operating table and I can see stuff. I'm coming back and then I ask, I vaguely remember hearing the cry, dude, a little cry, but not again. I'm in freaking millions of multiverses. One of the multiverse was the cry, I think. Seriously, one of them. And I don't hear anything. And then I'm like back into some other trip. And then I come back and I look and it lights. And then I tell people, is my baby okay? And then I'm back. And then when I'm coming back, I'm like, oh God, I didn't hear the answer. So I come back and I'm like, is my baby okay? Bungee jump back into a fucking trip. But the trips were getting less, not as crazy. And then when I would come back, I remember having the thought of, oh my God, they're not telling me if my baby's okay. Did I die? Did my baby die? Oh my God. And I would go back into another fucking multiverse. And then when I would come back, I'd be like, Lydia, you have fragmented. You have completely lost your shit because you heard some news. Try to remember, was she okay? And then I'd come back and I'd be like, is my I remember trying to talk, but I thought I was talking, but I wasn't sure if I was like, is my baby okay? And I never heard the answer, dude. I just was freaking out in that moment where I wasn't here, but I wasn't there. It was this weird limbo. And so then I remember when I finally came to, I was like somewhere else. I wasn't in the operating table anymore. And they started doing the fundal massage,
Mhm.
the to put for your uterus to contract back. And I was like, and then when I came to, Ducky was talking about her mom and her family from I don't know what decades, what century. And I was so mad at her, dude. I could just feel rage. I looked at her and I'm like, I came to and I was finally here. I wasn't bungee jumping. I was like, how old are you anyway? That was my first question when I came to. And Ducky's like, excuse me, why? How old do you think I am? You know, she was offended. And I was like, I got you right in the jugular, fucking old ass 90-year-old bitch. Oh, I forgot other things that she had said. Well, when I was freaking out, I forgot this part. When I was freaking out in the operating table, like convulsing, I hear her say to people in the back, she has a history of depression
Oh,
and anxiety,
fucking
having
shit.
a panic attack. She's having a panic attack. I don't get panic attacks. I am not a panic attack person. I've gone through everything. I've been there all fucking, I've been there fucking 16 hours and I haven't freaked out. I haven't yelled ever. Why would you say, well, again, I can't blame her because people don't know me that well, whatever. But like, just because I told her I have a history of depression and anxiety, it was okay. Just, she's just having a panic attack.
But even then,
Like,
you wanna help the person. If they're having a panic attack, at least be there, "Sweetheart, it's okay. This is what's happening. Are you feeling pain?" Why weren't they doing their jobs? Oh my god. Oh, Jesus, Lydia. I feel like you coulda had a lawsuit with this one, but keep going, please. So you were
when I came
coming
to,
to and you said your comment to Ducky.
yeah, because I was it's like the funniest thing to realize that's the first thing that I said. And then I started like not screaming, but I was like, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. And they're like, what? I'll do the fundal massage. Look, I'll push it myself, please. It hurts so bad. It hurts. And they're like, you can feel that? You just came out of the C-section. Like, you can feel this? Yes, I can feel it all. Because I was back in my body. I wasn't dissociated anymore. So I feel every fucking touch. And they pinched me and they're like, can you feel this? And I'm like, yes, you're pinching me. And I'm like, I'll do it, please, please, I'll do it. I know how to do a fundal massage. I was lying. Like, I mean, I wasn't lying because in birth boot camp, they tell you how to do it. So in my head, I was like, I'll do it, I'll do it. And Ducky was like, I don't know if she called me sweetie. She's like, sweetie, this is serious. If you don't I can't even do her voice. She's like an old little Texan lady. If you don't let these nurses do this, you could hemorrhage. It's a very serious thing. And I was like, is my baby okay? I think I said, is my baby okay? They're like, yes, she's okay. And I was like, okay. And then I vaguely remember this part. I went in. Then they took me to the room, like where my partner and my baby were at. And as soon as like the nurses like left and they like closed the door, everybody left, right? I remember looking at him and he looks at me and then I went and he's like, what happened? And I was like, I just started crying, hysterically crying. And I was like, they were so mean to me. They were so mean to me. That was the thing that's all I could say. They were so mean to me. I didn't tell them I felt it all, like nothing. That's the thing that gets to me the whole time. Like, you're doctors, you're nurses, you're whatever. Like you said, why weren't they there? It's okay, sweetie. I
Oh,
had nobody to calm me down. And so, dang, I didn't realize I was gonna cry. I thought I was numb. Um, and so another nurse comes in and she sees me, and I think I was crying so loud. And my partner, he was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? And I was like, I felt it. I felt it all. And I felt them cutting me and they didn't believe me. They didn't believe me. And I remember that was like the most traumatic part. They didn't believe me. And then I see my baby. They're like, look at the baby. The nurses come in and baby, I literally looked at the baby and was like, okay. Oh, I remember my first comment was, oh, she looks like me. And they were like, here. And I was like, I
traumatized.
didn't
Traumatized.
even completely traumatized. And then I was like, okay. And then they said, do you want to try to breastfeed her? And I was crying, like crying. And I was like, okay, okay, yes, yes. And then I remember the nurse came. She was really sweet. That nurse was really nice. She was a younger nurse. You could tell, like more newish, not fucking 95 years old, jaded as person. So then she came and she was trying to put her on me. And as soon as she came to me, the baby was like, ah, ah, screaming. And she was like, no, 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 get me away. And I just felt that vibe. And I was just like, yeah, here. So, like, that whole time, oh, I remember, I forgot another part of the story. Before I came back to the room, that's the part I was forgetting. I was coming back to the room before I saw the baby. Let's rewind. When I was in severe pain from the fucking cut, from the fucking C-section, from the fundal massage, I was like, it hurts, it hurts. And Ducky was like, well, you want me to give you a little treat? You want a little treat? And I was like, a treat? And I go, is it gonna affect my meds? And then she's like, well, what did you tell? Were you honest to me? Did you tell me everything that you're taking? I did ask you. And I was like, yes, I told you. Yeah, I don't know what treat. What are you gonna give me? And she's like, I'll just give you some morphine. And I'm like, okay, that's a treat? What? So they give me morphine because they realized that after I came back from the ketamine trip, that I was in severe pain still.
Yeah, you
So they
never
had
had
to give.
fucking numbing from your C-section. You literally passed out and then had a trip because of the medicine they gave you on out of pain. Your body was probably in shock, dude. Oh my god.
And then let me give you, you want a little treat? Like I'm a fucking drug addict? I was like, I don't know. And I could barely look at her. The rage was real with how she was treating me. And so then she gave me morphine. And so then I don't remember coming back and the breakdown and the baby and the breastfeeding. And I'm just there. And like my partner was like, here, you want to? I'm like, and I just fall asleep. I think I fell asleep because I still haven't slept that much. I fell asleep for a while. And I remember they woke me up again to give me more meds or something. And I had some nice nurses, and I barely asked for my baby. I didn't even, it was my partner the whole time. He changed every diaper, he did everything. I was just there. And then I remember my friends texting me and me looking and everybody wanting to talk to me. And then my sister and my mom were, oh, dude, I forgot that part too. My sister and my mom were on the phone FaceTiming. And when I came in, I looked at them and that I was still saying the same thing over and over. They were so mean to me and they were so mean to me. They didn't believe me. I felt them cutting me. I felt it all. And I was just like, it was horrible. And my sister was like, who was it? And I was like, it was Ducky. Ducky was being mean. And then they were like, are you sure? She's really nice. Are you sure you weren't? And I right away was like, that just shut me down. It completely made me be like, okay, there's no way anyone's going to believe me. So why even say anything about her if she has this great reputation? And so I felt so weird. It was almost like I couldn't even finish. I couldn't even say my story. Just that comment, are you sure?
Yeah.
It's like they didn't believe me.
They couldn't
And
see
now you,
it on your face. They couldn't like, oh my gosh.
I was like, Ducky didn't believe me. And now I'm telling my family, and they're like, "Are you sure? Maybe it was just like the pressure from it. Maybe it was just." And Ducky's not like Ducky's so good. Ducky's nice or whatever. So it's like everything was like I made it up, I guess, whatever. I don't know. And then my friends were texting me, and I was like, yeah, I had a C-section." And then they were like, "Are you okay? Is everything?" It was horrible. And then I could just see them like they were messaging me like, dude, we all had C-sections. It's okay. Like, it's okay you couldn't do it. It's okay you couldn't do a natural birth. I told you not to be so fixated on your little birth thing. And I was just like, I can't talk about it. I don't give a fuck if I got a C-section. You really, like in my head, I was just like, oh my God, they think I'm fucking being petty or being a brat or something.
Yeah.
I was pissed. And so then I was just like, okay, yeah, I had a C-section, whatever. So I didn't even want to talk to my friends. And then my mom's on FaceTime, and my mom was just like, you could see she was like traumatized from hearing my cries and my screams and my just the way I was. It was like not normal. And she was, I could tell it was kind of, it was a lot for my mom. And then I don't remember much of it. I think they were coming in and out trying to help me breastfeed. I couldn't because every time I would try to breastfeed, the baby would scream. She would, she'd be fine, dude. And she got next to me, scream hysterically and like, get away from me. No, no. You couldn't even put her to like try to latch. She would not. And so that made me feel awful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Damn. And so then I would put the little haka and I would try to squeeze it and nothing was coming out. I was trying to do whatever. And then right before I left, I remember Ducky. No, no, no. This is not right before I left. So Ducky came and she's like, hi. And she's like, I just want to make sure you're doing your fundal egg massages. Are you okay? Dude, I couldn't even look at her in the face. I just felt like turned red and hot and just the fucking shit. Like, and then I feel like she remembered, she was like, okay, someone's not having a very good day. Or like, I don't know if she said something funny like that. Okay, this lady's so mean. Like, I'm so mean. But in my head, I'm like, fucking hate you, lady. Like, you sucked during my, like in my head, I was just like, and then she left, right? And I tried to do like a little bit of the fundle. I was like, I wasn't even doing them, dude. I could have fucking hemorrhaged. Then I started talking to him and I was like, I can write a fucking book. I need to write this fucking story. And he was just like, what? I literally felt like the muse. I just need to right now, like, start fucking writing this because it's fucking unbelievable. I cannot believe it. And then this nurse that night, this nurse that I know, she's a friend of my brother-in-law. They went to school together and she's like the head nurse there at the hospital. I don't know if it was for the maternity or the ER, I don't know what, but she's a big head nurse. I tell her, she's like, oh my God, I have to see her. Like, oh my God, she's so cute. I have to carry a baby. And she comes and she's like, how was it? I was like, dude, they were so mean to me. And I told her everything. And she was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then she goes, yeah, I'm scared of Ducky. I'm so scared of her. I don't even want to be around her. She's scary. And I'm like, she's scary? They're like, yeah, she's fucking scary. And I don't know what she was saying about like Ducky this and like how almost like she was like an untouchable or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm telling you so that you could help me.
Mhm.
But she didn't do anything. And she's a fucking head nurse. And she heard this story right when it had happened. She did nothing. And she wasn't even, it was like, oh yeah, like that happens. Oh yeah, that happens. Or some bullshit. Yeah. And then I was like, she's carrying my baby all happy. And I'm just there like, and then she leaves. I mean, I'm crying, dude. And she's there with my baby, just whatever. And then I think, I don't remember what happened. It's all in little random moments. And so then I remember they said I needed to walk before I left, do some walking in the hospital. And so I'm walking, and as I'm walking in the hall, I look at the nurse's station and I see Ducky. And I looked at her and I started having my heart and my face flushed and my fist fucking pissed, dude. And I do not get angry. It's rare for me to get mad. And so I'm like walking with the rail, like just walking all slow. And then I went up there and then I looked at her and I was like, I need to talk to you. And she's like, okay, yeah, my office is just right here. Uh, okay. And so she opens the door to her office and we go into her office and then she closes the door. And then I look at her and I'm like, I start crying. I think I just said, why were you so mean to me? Like, that's all I can fucking say. It's kind of funny now, but it's like, why were you so mean to me? And she was like, oh, sweetie. And she hugged me all the biggest hug. And I was bawling in someone's arms because I hadn't had that, not even from my partner, nothing, you know? And then she was like, well, sweetie, I really thought you were going to do this. You were so close. I knew you didn't want a C-section. I knew you didn't want this, and everything in your birth plan was not going as planned. So I was just being stern with you. I was like, what? And I was like, you didn't believe me when I told you. It's really hard. I don't remember how she said it, but she was like, it's really hard for me to differentiate sometimes whether the person is just feeling the pressure and they think they're feeling that and they're having a panic attack, or if it's like pain and I can't give you the full like epidural or I can't give you full anesthesia. It's very tricky because they were already cutting you.
Mhm.
So I had to give you ketamine. That is the fastest acting agent that is like a dissociative drug where it dissociates your mind from your body and then you don't feel pain. A dissociative anesthetic or whatever it's called. And I don't know. And so he was like, sweetie, I really didn't want to do that because I have heard very traumatizing experiences from that. And I was like, what was it? Like, why did that happen to me? And then she's like, that's what I had to give you. That was the safest for the baby, the safest for you, and the quickest acting so that you wouldn't feel it all. And I was like, okay. And she's like, what did you dream about? Are you okay about the, and she wanted to talk about my trip. And I was like, looking at her like, I don't fucking care. Why do I want to tell you about my trip? And she's like, yeah, some people have had crazy stories and crazy whatever. And I'm like, I wasn't prepared. This was crazy. And I thought my baby had died. And then I told her, and I was like, and you didn't believe me. And she's like, sweetie, when I went to get you, when I went to take everything off, the the needle or the, I keep forgetting words right now.
Like where the epidural goes in, like, mhm,
Yeah,
the
the
port.
thing.
Port? What it
Yeah,
Yeah.
I keep thinking catheter, but I know it's not catheter.
It's a
It's
catheter,
another
you're
word.
right, because it goes up your spine. They put the thing in there, and then that's how the medicine goes up. You're right. It's a catheter.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So then she goes, when I took it out, it wasn't, it was almost completely out. And then she goes, and I am so sorry, you know, that that happened. And I was like, I had a relief. Like when she admitted that there was an error and that it was true what I was saying, and that from pushing 3 hours, the thing had come out. And who knows where the fucking epidural went? Like, not, it didn't numb me completely, you know? And then she was just like, I'm so sorry. And you've been so brave. She was so another person,
Mhm.
like, complete. Like, she probably was like, fuck, I'm gonna get sued.
Yeah.
I better, like, she's saying I was mean. She's saying I didn't believe her. She's saying this. So she wasn't mean. She was super kind, super nice. She explained everything about what ketamine was. She explained everything about the catheter and how it came out. And she was giving me like medical stuff. And she was saying I did it as fast as I could. As soon as, like, I noticed the signs, like, I gave you that so you wouldn't feel it. You only felt, and I did. I only felt like the three. So I don't know, like, if she really was super fast in
Mhm.
reacting, but
Probably
nobody knew.
because she would have to go get it, administer it, and you know what I mean? So she probably was really quick in doing it when she
Yeah,
realized.
because dude, when they're cutting, it's like
Mhm.
fast in my head, what I remember, because it's like so traumatic, I don't really remember
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And so then she was like, I just remember I saw some nurses or whatever, and I remembered them saying something like, oh, when shit hits the fan, when your birth, what is it? Shit hits the fan when your birth plan goes out the window. It's like, yeah, I'm traumatized because my birth plan went out the window. Yes. Are you treating me differently because I had a birth plan and nobody did? They rarely see that in my hometown.
Mhm.
They don't see that. They just see women who go there, have no idea they're being fucking mistreated, have no idea that this isn't the way that it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I knew that shit was bad.
Mhm.
And they knew that I knew or something. I don't know. It's just a feeling. And so then I remember we were leaving already, and I think I took a picture with my baby and posted it, but I didn't even want to write anything. I didn't even want to talk to anybody. And the ladies there were like, I was like, are y'all going to give me like more painkillers? I think it's up in like 30 minutes or whatever. They're like, oh, well, we already called it into the pharmacy. And I was like, okay, dude. I get in my little wheelchair and they're pushing me every single bump. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I They could have given me the meds
Mhm.
before I fucking left.
Yeah.
I literally had to come into these little, any bump on the road, I was making my partner go super slow. I was, oh my gosh, and how long is the pharmacy gonna take? I feel like really, really, your insides. It's the most ridiculous pain that I can't describe from a C section. Like, and you're being rattled, excruciating. I was even pissed about that. I was like, oh my God, they couldn't even, because I don't know, it just whatever. So I got home and I don't know. I think I was taking the meds and they weren't even helping. And I was like, dude, these meds don't even help me. I don't know if they give you the generic or they didn't even give me meds, the meds in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why am I even taking these? So I stopped taking them because they're not even doing anything. If I had an 8 pain, it would go down to a 6 or 7, or it
Mm.
would barely help. So I'm like, whatever. And again, I was trying to put the baby to latch, screaming. She didn't even want to be near me in my head. I don't know. In my head, I was like, she doesn't even want to be near me. I don't even want to be near me. And so then my brother in law and my sister go and buy me a pump. And luckily, they bought me the pump because then I think after 2 days of pumping or three, I started producing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you have a C-section, a lot of people don't produce because of all the medications that they're taking.
Mhm.
And just there's something in the body that doesn't register, or I don't know what happens when you have a C-section. And so I started pumping, and then I just remember I couldn't move, dude. Even rolling on the bed or getting off the bed, I was laying there and I just remember crying. And if I heard any noises in another room or somewhere else, I would be like, is that real? I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm losing it. I told my partner, and he was like, please, you have to keep it together. Please do not lose your shit. And I was like, okay, oh God, I have to hide it. He was the one. He was like, do not fucking be strong. Be strong. Don't lose. Please don't lose your shit. And I was like, well, who's in the other room? Did you hear the sound? Did you hear this talking? And he's like, oh, yeah. My nephew was in the other room playing with some electronics or whatever. And then I'd hear something else and I'd be like, what about this? Yeah, there's this. And I was like, did you see that? I literally was so scared that I was seeing things, that I was hearing things, that I was psychotic, anything. And it was like, I don't know. It was not even, and I had to be afraid by myself because apparently my partner was like, keep it together,
Yeah.
keep it together. And I was like, okay, I'll keep it together. And by keeping it together was me crying in bed by myself with flashbacks and with not talking.
Yeah.
I just remember everyone carrying the baby and they asked me, oh, you want to carry her? You want to do? I didn't want to carry her. And then I remember with even my mom, I got in a fight with my mom because she was just like, the baby feels your energy. Your baby feels everything that you're feeling. You need to be strong. You need to be good. You need to be good so the baby's good. And I just looked at her and I was like, well, I can't. So everyone else is better than me. I'd rather her be with anybody else. Or I don't even know how I told her, but I fought with her. I yelled at her and I yelled at my partner. I was a mess. I was just like, I don't want my energy around my baby. And I could remember people talking about postpartum. And I remembered, oh, they don't even love their baby. They don't even care about their baby or whatever, right? In my head, I was like, my poor baby. I don't want her in this deep, scary energy. Why would I want her to see? That even makes me sad. I want to be with her. I want to connect with her. I love her. But I'm not okay and I can't keep it together. Apparently, I'm failing. I'm failing her. And if I have her around me, if I have her on me, she's going to be experiencing the same hell that I'm experiencing. I don't want her. So that's like the mama bear
Yeah.
reaction that people don't.
I know. I felt with my postpartum depression, I did not go through the birth trauma that you went through. That adds a whole other layer onto it. But I know exactly how you feel. I had those moments where I would cry by myself. I had those moments where I was like, my kids will be better off with anybody but me right now. Like I can't because I'm just showing them like this sick person that can't do anything for themselves. And then people, like you said, just get over it. Just be strong. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Oh, okay. Um, let me just drink this water and then that's the secret elixir. Like, oh, like I haven't fucking thought about that, like I haven't tried. I haven't been trying this whole time. You think I want to be like this? You think I want to be fucking sad right now? You don't think I want to be holding and loving my fucking little girl? Of course I do. Sorry, I'm getting mad because I've been through, not in the same way, but I've been through a lot of the same stuff that you're talking about. So I
Right,
completely understand these feelings that you are having, and
right.
it is not fair, and damn, girl. Damn.
Yeah, and the postpartum lasted about 6 weeks, I think. It was about 6 weeks when I finally was like, "Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about what happened." I told them and they were like, you're just telling us this? What?" And I was like, "I know. I'm Miss TMI. I'm like the storyteller. I love talking about all my experiences, good, bad, whatever."
Mhm,
And I was like, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't tell anybody, nobody. And then I told the birth educator, Tiana Johnson, I gotta say her name. And when I told her everything, she was like, "No, like every baby is better off. They want to feel their mom. They want to co regulate with you. It's not about just you,
mhm,
it's about that baby. It's so familiar to you. It's been in your stomach. No matter how you're feeling, you're always going to be the best person for this baby." And I was like, no one has told me that,
mhm,
you know? And I was just always like, everybody tells you, if you're not good, then your baby's not good. If you're not, that's all you hear.
mhm. It
And
is.
that's exactly what I was feeling. I'm not good, so I can't be near her.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
makes you feel like a failure again and again and again until she made my birth educator from birth. Like, she's just like my angel, you know? I don't know how she said it. She's very articulate, but it just kind of made it more real. You are the best person for her. She loves you. Babies are so forgiving and they're so like, you can be in the worst situation ever and they're still looking at you like, "Oh, mama, I love you. You're everything," you know? And so, and that love also heals you.
Mhm,
That love that they have for you, it's co regulation, or, they can, having your baby gives you oxytocin. It could help you. But in my head, no, it was me. I'm bad.
yeah,
So that's when I started telling the story to 6 weeks or whatever. I didn't tell a lot of people. And I was still not sleeping. The baby never latched. I got like, I don't even know, two little consultants that came to my house. And they were like weird too. They were like, "Oh my God, this boobs. I'm sorry. I don't know how she said it, but she made me feel like she's never seen the biggest boobs of all time. Like, they were just like so huge." And then she's like, "Whoa, how do you position?" And then I had a C-section, so I know. And then I had a C-section, so like I could not move my body.
mhm.
It was really painful. So the positions that she was putting me, I was like, "Oh, like ow." And like the boob was like just like on my baby, I guess. She couldn't figure it out. And the baby crying and the baby fussy. And she was just pushing my boob away. And it was just failure after failure after failure. And I remember being at birth boot camp and telling my partner, "I'm not pumping. I'm not buying a pump." And he's like, "You're pumping. Just watch. Like, it's easier, it's better." And I'm like, "No, I'm breastfeeding." Like, all like, like so determined that I knew my life was going to be breastfeeding and I was going to have this amazing boob moment. No, I didn't have that. Was attached to a pump that was connected every 3 hours, every 2 hours at first. I didn't sleep
Mhm.
forever. I
Yep.
was hearing lyrics to songs that I never listened to over and over and over and over and over and
Yep.
over on loop, where I was like,
Yeah.
"Stop. Like, I can't hear this one lyric anymore." And like, just, and it was the weirdest. I don't even get songs stuck in my head
That's
ever. I'm not a
so
music
funny,
person.
I totally forgot about making shit up like that, like, Ours would go, "Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here." And then there was something else that we thought it said all the time too. It was like those tracks where they're like, if you hear this thing, then this is your psychology. And if you hear this thing, that is it. It was like at different moments, you heard it saying different things.
Yes,
I
and it was like over and over and over and over, and I couldn't shut it up, and that's when I was like, "This is so creepy." I can see how people torture people by putting the same song over and over and over and over in a room. It drives you crazy. But that was happening to me from like days and days of sleep deprivation,
Yeah,
which was crazy because I would pump 30 minutes because they were saying like if you only did 15 you could lose your supply and all of that, so I would do 30 minutes and then I would wash the pump and then I would put in a bottle and then the baby would wake up, I would feed the baby, and that would take her like 30 minutes or maybe even an hour to like put her to sleep. I would put her to sleep, I look, 3 hours done. Like what, how am I even going to sleep if I have to
yeah,
pump on a 2 3 hour schedule? I
yeah,
can't even rest because I'm doing this. And every once in a while, I was kind of mad because my partner, he did a lot actually. I mean, I shouldn't say anything, but he did most of everything. He changed her. I don't even think it was 4 weeks until I changed my first diaper, or 3 weeks, like something ridiculous, where he was waking up, he was feeding her, doing a lot. And I didn't realize, like he was pretty much keeping it together. Thank God. And I forget, he went through the trauma too. He went through the trauma too, and I always forget that. Pretty much, I remember anything that would be psychedelic, like on TV, I'd be like, "Oh my god, that's my ketamine trip. Look, like it looked like this, like any little thing." And then I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that's how it looked." All these weird psychedelic trips, I could just remember, like it would. And I remember my partner being like, "Can you stop? I don't want to hear about it." He's like, "You talk about it all the time. Like every movie, every line, every weird thing. Oh, that was my ketamine trip." And that was like my way of making sense of it.
yeah.
And I was like, why is he such a jerk? Like, dude, I tell this to my sister and she doesn't care. But I forget he went through the trauma too.
Yeah.
Every time I said it, he would feel like he wasn't there with me. He wasn't there
Mhm.
to be able to like advocate for me in the C-section, or you know what I mean? So I think that's why he would not want to hear the story and not want to be there. And so we're not together anymore. I think I got into therapy, and then I think in I met Holding Space Girls. And yeah, it took a while. It took me 2022. I finally went, so that was the whole year of me trying to get out of the depression, get out of my crazy, is this real, is this not, get out of everything. And it took so much out of me. I think 10 months was when I stopped pumping. And when I stopped pumping, the world got so much better. So much better. The only reason I kept pumping was because there was that Similac controversy,
Yeah.
and he threw up and had all these bumps all over her when I gave her Similac. And I looked at the recall thing and it was the recall. I was like, really? I almost killed my baby. The guilt
Yeah.
after I was trying to get her off so that I could have peace and sleep, because it was not good for my mental health to pump like that.
Oh, girl.
Literally
I get it.
so. So I stopped in 10 months, I believe, like 10-ish months. And then I started going to counseling. I started just trying to eat better. And I remember I would have to go outside for 5 minutes and just to be in the sun with my baby. It was just so much, the littlest things like taking a shower, the littlest things like where you build yourself up.
Mhm.
So that's about, I'm like trying to remember. That's about it. Like I started working 2023 April, and she was born, I guess, when she was about 14 months.
Mhm.
And then it's not all sad. I think I did end up getting, I'm really attached to her now.
Yeah.
I did. It took about 14 months. It took about the year mark. I know I started feeling a little bit better also at the 6 months mark. And then after pumping, I started feeling better toward her. And I would feel a lot of guilt though. Like, man, why couldn't I have been like a different mom to experience this differently? Or why did I feel like this? It almost feels like I shouldn't have
Yeah, I get
been
that
this.
because you know my story. For 3 years, I missed Kennedy for 3 years. I missed Harlow when she was little, up until she was a year old. I never felt that mom feeling. I loved my kids. It's just like you describe it. You love your kids. It's this thing inside of you. Instinctually, you love your kid, right? But feeling the heart opening experience of that love from your kid wasn't there until I got help. Um,
Right.
so did you end up going back on your medication to help your postpartum? Do you think that like your postpartum continued until you went back on medication? I know since you had depression issues before, of course, you're more likely to have postpartum depression after. So, did you go back on your medication and how did you make that decision? Was it an easy one to make or were you trying to do it without it? What did that look like for you? It's okay.
um, it was like my friends really who helped me see it. I was determined. Mommy. Since it took me like 5 years to get to the lowest dosage. I thought like, okay, I have 5 years now. It takes a village, and it was, yeah. I just got to the point where I didn't think I could do it without the meds. I didn't think I could work, and I just have to accept it. I just had to accept that I need to be okay for her, and if I'm not okay right now, and it was a risk to get on it because sometimes I'll get back on medication and it doesn't work,
Mhm.
and so I was praying that it worked this
Yeah.
time because I had been on it for 5 years. I've been titrating down for 5 years, so I didn't know what to expect when I got back on it. That was a big fear too. Like,
Yeah.
I worked so hard at this. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do 5 years of hell again.
Yeah.
I ever want to get off again because I know it's not easy for me. But now I'm just kind of like, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I you sometimes you need it. I mean, you absolutely need it. And there's no shame in that. So, I wanted to talk to you about one thing before we go that a lot of people don't realize that you actually taught me about because you're my friend and we were talking about it, the
Mhm.
progesterone withdrawal and going through that because I was on progesterone with both of my kids. And I think that definitely added to my baby blues, postpartum depression, depression while I was on it during my pregnancy. And no one talks about that. No one talks about how progesterone can do that to you. Even being on it can do that to you. It's just in my head, I'm like, there needs to be more resources about this stuff. I remember before I gave birth, I listened to this podcast called Birth Queens, and that's Queens, Kweens, in case they're still on here if people want to listen. And they were super helpful. It was a doula and a midwife, and they said every down and dirty thing that could happen during pregnancy, literally any possibility they were going through it and telling the story. So in their head, they were like, have a birth plan, but understand that it could be adjusted. And it sounds like to me during yours, you weren't fighting them. You weren't fighting them like, oh, I don't want to do this. No, this is my birth plan. This is how it's going to go. It was more like they assumed that you were that way. And that's just sad. I'm sorry that you had that experience. And God, the whole thing, girl. It's like,
No.
I know there's other people out there that have had this experience. And if you're one of those people out there and you hear this, please comment or you can reach me on if you click on my pod page, you can email me, you can find me on any social media platform. And I want to hear your story because I'd love to do even a blog post or another episode just reading out other people and so they can be heard as well because this is something that people do not talk about until you I had never heard of this happening. And
I think I even Googled it or like tried to like do a YouTube like search and all that, and I didn't find anything.
yeah,
And I literally, I don't know how it all came to me. I think it happens to people and they had no idea that's what it was.
yeah,
They were just like, "Dude, I passed out and I had a trip and okay, that was it."
yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't even bad for them. And I don't want to say ketamine is bad because I know that it's helping people. It's helped some of my friends with depression.
Mhm.
I think it was just me
Yeah,
in extreme terror that I'm feeling everything. And then they give me some drug that I had no idea that's what it was going to do. And then also the bungee jumping, all of that contributed to a bad ketamine, the K hole. I went in the K hole. I learned so much later what happened to me. And I don't think a lot of people research
yeah,
or understand that it happened to them too.
yeah.
And so, yeah. And there's also another thing that helped me a lot. Another thing that on Instagram, the tea on birth trauma on Instagram, that helped me a lot, where you hear all those stories of
Okay.
all these different scenarios.
Well, I'll definitely link
And
that Instagram to this so people can find it.
the tea on birth trauma helped me like, whoa, like it is something that people go through. I still haven't heard my story, but I haven't really searched lately. Um, but yeah, I was on a K-hole. Me and my baby she came into this world all psychedelic already, super smart, super open-minded. I feel like if I was in a K-hole, she was probably in a K-hole too. First
Right? Because she
experience.
was still connected to you technically. You weren't disconnected. She it's not until you cut the cord, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, she definitely got some of that for sure. Oh my
right.
goodness. Well, thank you
But
so much for
my
sharing your story. It is so powerful and the strength that you have going through something like that and being able to talk about it. Thank you for sharing it because I know it's going to hit so many hearts. And like I said, my goodness, superwoman over there. Superwoman over there. Honestly, and to be able to talk about it afterwards too, like I said, it's just I feel you on so many levels with it wasn't the same experience for me, but the emotional things, they hit me in the heart because I felt them in my postpartum depression. I truly did. So, my goodness, girl, you are strong and your strength is going to inspire so many others. And thank you so much for doing this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your
Thank
story.
you for doing this for everybody too. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And this is just one story. I can't wait, to see the community of other women sharing their stories and your book. And maybe I'll have a little chapter in there. Or
Yes.
I know you're doing this is needed for sure.
Yeah.
I know there's resources, but
Yeah. Not
definitely
enough. Not
we
in your face
need,
enough. That's what my whole
yeah.
thing's gonna be about, right?
Yeah.
Just a little
I'm
sneaker
excited.
peeker. But okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening to another episode of Rise and Shine with the Mama Jac. We had Olive with us today, and thank you again. Thank you for listening to another episode of Rise and Shine with the Mama Jac, where we deep dive into the real, raw, truthful world of parenthood, mental health, wellness, and spirituality. Remember, my loves, it's okay to take a moment for yourself, to breathe, to laugh, and embrace the beautiful messiness of life. Let's keep rising out of our shadows, shining our light, nurturing our souls, and spread love like confetti. Until next time, stay shamelessly authentic. Love, the Mama Jac. For more info and socials, go to shamelesslyauthenticproductions.com.